Middle East, Iran strikes back after the US and Israel begin major combat operations against the regime in Tehran. Explosions have been seen across the Gulf, including Qatar and the UAE, in what Iran is claiming will be a crushing response. The joint US-Israeli operation appears to have targeted sites in Tehran and other cities, with President Trump explicit he is seeking regime change.
We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground, to the great proud people of Iran. I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand.
Iranian state media is reporting missiles that hit a girls' school in the south of the country have killed 53 people, but they're claiming senior regime figures remain alive. The UK was not involved in the operation, and Sir Keir Starmer has neither supported nor condemned it, but he has criticised Iran's response.
I condemn Iran's attacks today on partners across the region. British planes are in the sky today as part of coordinated regional defensive operations.
ITV News with Romilly Weeks. Good afternoon. Iran has retaliated today with multiple missile strikes across the Middle East after the US and Israel launched a major attack on the country. The Pentagon named it Operation Epic Fury, with Donald Trump pledging to obliterate Iran's missiles and annihilate its navy. Iran says the joint US and Israeli strikes were wholly unprovoked, illegal and illegitimate and would receive a crushing response. And there are conflicting reports over whether the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead or alive. Qatar, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia were all hit in the Iranian response, and there's been an explosion at the Palm Hotel in Dubai. Missiles have also been fired at Israel, which is under a state of emergency. We'll be live there in a moment, but first our correspondent Robert Moore reports from Washington.
This is an air assault by the United States and Israel with the overt aim of regime change in Iran. And at a stroke, it has ignited a war that is expanding across the region. Among the key sites targeted and visibly destroyed are the headquarters of the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. His fate tonight remains unclear. And this is Iran's response. A wave of ballistic missile attacks, including this strike on Bahrain, home to the US Fifth Fleet. The announcement of Operation Epic Fury was given by President Trump from his Florida resort.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
America has a vast array of naval and air power in the region, including 2 carrier strike groups. But Trump suggested it was only capable of setting the stage for Iranians themselves to take control.
For many years you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass.
That call for an Iranian uprising is an extraordinary request and a huge gamble, asking ordinary, unarmed people to take the place of US ground forces. And it remains entirely unclear whether anti-regime forces are capable of seizing power amid the unfolding chaos. Israeli Air Force jets have been fully engaged from the start as well. The IDF releasing this video of their strikes. But already there are reports emerging of civilian casualties. These are said to be pictures of a school close to a barracks that was hit in southern Iran. Sources which we cannot confirm say as many as 50 people may have been killed. Iran's military retaliation appears to be weaker than expected and poorly coordinated. Debris from missiles was filmed falling in Doha in Qatar, as people fled a residential neighborhood. Smoke was seen rising in Kuwait at various points across the country. And in northern Iraq, air defense systems were activated to intercept Iranian missiles and drones. This is the greatest risk taken by an American president in a generation. And it may be days or weeks before it's clear whether this operation can achieve its wildly ambitious objective of toppling the regime and transforming the region. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
The strikes on Iran are the result of weeks of US air power being built up in the region. It's on a scale not seen since 2003. The centerpiece of their fleet is the aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest in the world. It's currently off Israel's coastline. A second aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, is based south of Iran. Iranian state media has reported multiple strikes across Iran, including the capital, Tehran. The supreme leader's residence was targeted, as well as the state's atomic energy organization. In retaliation, Iran has launched strikes of its own on Israel and US assets in the region. It says it's targeted American bases in Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE. And air defense fire over Dubai was followed by an explosion at the Palm Hotel there. Now we have a series of live reports with our correspondents in Israel, in Downing Street, in Washington and in Istanbul. Let's begin closest to the fighting with our senior international correspondent, John Irvine, in Tel Aviv. Johnny, what's the latest there?
Good evening, Romilly. I'm wearing this clobber right now because there has been a barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles intercepted behind me just over Tel Aviv. I have to say this afternoon in particular, the air raid sirens have been pretty relentless, but the barrages, by my estimation, Romilly, have been smaller than they were back in June. Dozens of missiles have been coming in instead of hundreds back then. It may well be that the Iranians are holding something back. It may be that they have other strategic priorities, like those US bases in the Gulf that have been struck. That is one of the unprecedented aspects of this war so far. Iran, attacking its near neighbors. Now, a short time ago, the Israeli Defense Forces put out a statement saying that they and the Americans attacked hundreds of targets in Iran in that initial strike. And crucially, they say the timing was based on intelligence information indicating that 3 meetings involving senior regime officials were taking place at that time. The Israelis claimed that the 3 venues were attacked simultaneously and that several senior regime figures were killed. There's lots of speculation about the fate of the Ayatollah. Sources in Iran are saying he will appear on television shortly. The key question, if he does, will be when exactly was that recorded? When Iran can retaliate, Romilly, what it can't do is defend itself. Back in June, the Israelis effectively wiped out its air defense system. So Israeli and American pilots are probably enjoying virtual impunity. Their primary targets will be the missiles that Iran is firing at Israel and those US bases. If they can blunt that threat, the Iranians will not have much left.
Johnny in Tel Aviv, thank you very much indeed. Well, to Washington now, where Robert is standing by. Robert, is there any indication yet how long this operation is expected to last?
Romilly, notably, the president has called this open-ended. He's also said this is a massive and ongoing military operation, and he's called this a noble mission. I think it's already clear, look, we're going to revisit some of the Iraq war questions about disputed intelligence, because one of the justifications the President and Commander-in-Chief gave for this attack was what he described as Iran's sort of ability in a short period of time to be able to attack the US homeland with long-range ballistic missiles, something that is, I think, in terms of the intelligence, heavily disputed. I think what is absolutely clear is the level of political and geostrategic risk here is off the charts. There are Democrats, certainly, but also, I think soon, some Republicans who will say that the president simply has a stunning lack of mission clarity. There's been no sort of national conversation about how essential this war is. There's been no authorization, for example, by Congress. There's been no kind of national conversation. Don't forget, of course, this is a president who said and came to office saying he would be the man, the commander-in-chief, the forever wars in the Middle East. But here we are with a war that could unleash many unforeseen consequences. It is striking to me, too, that the president is conducting this conflict not from the White House Situation Room, but from Mar-a-Lago, from his Florida resort. And he's not due back here in Washington until late tomorrow night.
Right, Robert, thank you. Well, as we mentioned earlier, the Prime Minister says the UK is not involved in the operation against Iran, but British planes are in the sky in the Middle East. Our political reporter Jasmine Cameron-Chileshi is in Downing Street. Jasmine, what else has he been saying there?
That's right. So the Prime Minister spent the day chairing a COBRA meeting and speaking with international allies such as France and Germany. And as you say, just a while ago, he outlined the government's position. So he confirmed that the UK played no role in this weekend's strikes, but he reiterated his condemnation of the Iranian regime, arguing that it must never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. He also warned that the regime posed a direct threat to the UK and had backed more than 20 potentially lethal attacks on UK soil in the past year alone. Now, Sir Keir Starmer also stressed that the UK had a range of defensive capabilities in the region, which it had recently strengthened, including toughening up protections for British bases and personnel.
Our forces are active, and British planes are in the sky today as part of coordinated regional defensive operations to protect our people, our interests, and our allies, as Britain has done before, in line with international law.
Now, the government has said that its immediate priority is the safety of UK nationals in the region. The Foreign Office have already warned British nationals in areas like Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, to immediately find shelter, and Heathrow Airport has confirmed the number of flights have been cancelled. The government has called for a de-escalation, but certainly officials here in Downing Street are going to be closely monitoring the situation in the coming hours.
Jasmine, thank you. And finally, let's turn now to our international editor, Emma Murphy, who is in Istanbul tonight. Emma, Israel says this operation has been planned for weeks, but talks were being held as recently as yesterday. Were they only ever a smokescreen?
Well, they certainly were taking place within a huge deficit of trust between the Iranians and the Americans. Yesterday we heard from the Omani foreign minister who travelled to Washington in a last-ditch attempt to try and beg President Trump for more time. He said that he thought he was going to be able to achieve a deal. He just needed a little bit longer to do that. And I think he was speaking honestly. He did think it was possible, but it's quite clear that was not what the Americans were looking for, even if they were saying at the time they wanted those talks to try to take away Iran's nuclear capacity. And let's not forget, this is almost a rerun of what happened in June when the 12-day war began. They were in the middle of talks to try and find a solution when the strikes took place, and there was huge fury in Iran about that. And when I was there in November, I spoke with senior ministers, and they were telling me that they were in the middle of WhatsApping the Americans when it happened, and they would never trust them again, if even they'd had trust in the first place. The reality is that if this is an attempt to try and bomb their way to a deal, it is almost going to go too far now. They are going to have a really difficult job getting anybody back round the table. In terms of the situation in the region, well, we have millions of people quite literally living in the line of fire. A war that has been warned of for so long, that some have tried to deter, that others have tried to encourage, is underway. It is very easy to start a war. It is much more difficult to end one. And that is something that President Trump and also the Iranians will have weighing heavily on their minds tonight.
Absolutely. Emma, thank you very much. Well, continuing with our main story now, Iran has launched retaliatory strikes on Israel and US targets in the Middle East. Smoke was seen billowing around American bases in Bahrain and Qatar, while there have been explosions in the region's commercial hub of Dubai. The retaliation follows huge joint strikes on Iran by the US and Israel after weeks of build-up. And that's all for the moment. We'll continue to have updates on ITVX and ITV.com/news, and we'll be back with the late news at 10:45. Goodbye.